Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about team diversity and how it can help. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, how would diversity in personalities in a software engineering team help the software development process? That is an excellent question. So it depends a little bit on what you mean by diversity, or like in this case, we are talking about personalities, but there's also this claim about diversity in terms of, well, I'm not going to go that far, but there's ideas around making sure that there are women working in the team, or that people from different nationalities should work in the team, like all of these sorts of political perspectives on how to do this thing. And if you ask my personal opinion about this, I think there is a grain of truth to, like, the idea of diversity is a good thing, but I think that just as with any smart or clever idea made by people of intelligence, stupid people hijack the idea and make it into something either racial or political or just yeah, well, no, like idiotic, because that is what stupid people do. They think that they take something that it's almost like a junior software developer. They take something that should be measured in pinches, like a spice or something, and make it the whole thing. So they take fistfuls of thing and like make it the whole extreme, which is, you know, the whole situation on social media and politics and so forth. You have stupid people on either side, because you have to be stupid to be on be an extremist usually. It's unfortunately, in my opinion, at the very least, very rare that the voice of reason and pragmatism is exciting enough that they're gonna be so that they don't get like overshadowed by the extremists who yell the loudest but usually have the least to say. And so when it comes to diversity, such as, you know, making sure that you have like women in the team, or if you have people from different cultural backgrounds and so forth, that is absolute bullshit. And it's like, I mean, if that is not sexism and racism, I don't know. But that's just based on my experience working with multiple teams from like international companies and with women, without women, like all of the different groups that you can possibly imagine. And it really comes down to the same thing. Your gender and your race matters so little in a software team that it is embarrassing, because the thing that really matters is how well does your personality fit into the group, and how smart are you, like how good are you at this thing. And people who don't understand how software development and how that sort of teamwork works, they usually make it into like this, oh, but we should have a female perspective on this. And I go, why do I need a female perspective on whether or not we should use the constant or a variable here? What's the female agenda? Like, what does the feminist movement have to say? Or I'm not saying feminist, but what is the female perspective on something like that? I'm simplifying it a little bit, but what I'm saying is that the thing that really makes a difference is the personality combination. And sure, sometimes, you know, having women, or depending on like how the personality, right? This is a very good thing, because the dangerous part is that if you only hire or put people with a certain set of personality qualities or ways of thinking, and these are the only people you have, well, then you create yourself a little bit of a blind spot. It's like, I like to say that if you play sports, a team sport, if everybody is the same player, the team is going to lose, because now the entire team has the same weaknesses as, you know, whoever your favorite football master player has, right? And that's actually very dangerous. And sometimes you actually have personality qualities in certain people, like you have the people who are very, you know, aggressive, or like they might have a lot of ideas and so forth, and it's really difficult for them to collaborate with people who have the same personality, because they both fight over dominance, if that makes sense. And this is a super common thing in like the alpha stereotypic way of working and like so forth and so forth. And in such a situation, it might be that it's better to actually complement that. I mean, sure, you can get rid of these sorts of people depending on how you look on it, if it's a positive or a negative thing. But in many cases, the composition of people around that person has to be a complement to this individual for this to be a constructive and healthy workplace. And that's where the diversity comes in. So from a software development perspective, it's actually very beneficial for you to make sure that you have a little bit of a mixed bag. I mean, everybody needs to be able to do the job and do like all of these sorts of things, which is the thing that I always emphasize when we talk about if it's gender or race or whatever you want to make this whole damn thing about, that the thing that really matters at the end of the day is how well do these people work together. Because this is not the Olympics, this is not an international war or something like that. It's engineering, and that's not a race thing. It's not like it has nothing to do with all these sorts of perspectives that a lot of people want to make it about, right? What it is about is personality and intelligence, and that, my friend, that is across all races, across all religions, across all genders. No one has ever proven that there is a direct correlation between these sorts of things and anything besides, how well educated are you, how much have you been giving it, like are you, and like personality and like exposure to environments and so forth. There are many things that can be said about the other stuff, but this is something that's one of the things that is very nice about it. It's a very inclusive thing. Engineering, science, etc., etc., depending on how you want to define it. So another thing that I don't think all that many people think about either is that having not just different types of personalities, but also different skill levels is a very useful thing, because some of the work that you do in a team is what I call a senior levels job. Like you might have architectural decisions or like visionary type of things, or like very complicated setups with like development pipelines and things like that. That is very difficult for a junior level software developer to do. But you also have a lot of CSS bugs, and you have a lot of these lower complexity types of tasks that sort of fall between the shares. And these things are things that a lot of the lazy master level programmers, they don't really want to deal with that, because they don't feel fulfilled with doing that. And so that's actually in a situation where I think a junior level software developer is actually a very good fit, because these are easy to handle tasks that they can try out and like sort of learn from, and then grow into more serious and more senior level experiences. And that's why I always argue to people, don't just try to say something stupid like, oh, we're only hiring people with this amount of years or that amount of years, so it's only seniors, it's only this or it's only that. Learn how your product works. Figure out what your backlog looks like. Figure out where the pain points and the issues are within the code base, and hire people that have the necessary skills for doing that job. There are many situations actually where I have formed a team where there's just been one senior, maybe one or two mid-levels, and everybody else is a junior level developer, because most of the work related to that specific system is so simple that it's actually a big money waste to use like super experienced software developers, and most of the time they're not actually going to want to stick around because this work is simply too simple for them. And so this all or nothing mentality, it's actually not that great. And what's very beneficial with having juniors in the team is that a lot of the more experienced master level software developers, they're sort of forced to either educate people, or even better, consider that when they write software, which is the pit of, or like the curse of knowledge, right? When you are really good at something, everything is easy. But if you're forced to write software with someone who's not as good, well, then you have to change your approach. So maybe your super sophisticated lambda heavy algebraic data type functional programming monad thing that you built, maybe that's not the perfect thing to put into a to-do app where there's 10 other junior developers who don't even understand the first line who's going to maintain it. And that actually grows you as a master level software developer, because the biggest mistake a guru or like a master can do is to create solutions that are only about their personal gratification. There's actually a simpler way to solve it. It's just that they want to solve it this way because they're bored or some other arbitrary reason. And that is sort of the balancing act. When you're really, really good, you really have to remember to only use those really sophisticated master level techniques that you have learned when they are warranted, when it's actually a must to use them in order to get a good solution. But in many cases, it's actually very boring. It's boring to be a super genius sometimes, because you realize that, well, I could solve it in this amazing, awesome way, but that's going to make it hard for everybody else to work on this thing. So I should probably just do the boring, obvious thing that works just as well, but it's just not as fun. So what I want you to take away from this is that the diversity in a software engineering team, at like, depending on like if you put it at the highest level with like gender and stuff like that, I've never seen that matter whatsoever. It does not matter. I've worked with people from across every country, every continent, every country, everybody at this point, and I've never seen a correlation between that making any difference whatsoever. Same thing with gender. Like, worked with several female developers and so forth. They're just as useful as anybody else. It's just another developer. And the perspective thing, that like the diversity that a lot of people talk about, I argue that has more to do with the personality and the intelligence and so forth, like these sorts of things, than anything else. And the reason why that is so useful is because when you have too many people who only are like engine types of people, or everybody's a visionary or so forth, you're actually creating a weaker team. Because to effectively move a software process, or like work with a team in software, it's really important that you have some people who have a lot of ideas and have a lot of good feedback for how to improve things, and some people who just are really good at spotting flaws or bugs, or really thorough, or might be like engine types and so forth. So that diversity is really important, because if you only have one or the other, you're actually weaker than if you had a little bit of a mix of both. And it's also the same thing for experience level. Having just senior software developers or just mid-levels or something like that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a better software, a better project. The trick is to get to know the sort of work you're doing in a specific team, and hire the appropriate profiles so that you have a little bit of a mixed bag. Because the seniors, if you have the wrong seniors, they're gonna fuck up the code base just as the juniors are. It's just that they're gonna make something super advanced, and the juniors, left completely without any help or support, might just make something that is sort of badly written. So mixing these two is actually a very powerful way to make sure that you get a decent overall quality, because people have to adapt to each other. And in some cases you want a junior, because most of the work you're doing is actually fairly simple, and then you can save on cost and other sorts of benefits that you wouldn't be able to have if you only had seniors. Have a great day.